Good afternoon. Welcome to the Meltdown. Hope you all are having a great day. The weather's beautiful in the Houston-Humble area. It's a great time to be alive, and I hope you're enjoying the pre-holiday season with family, friends, and just really embracing what's going on. I spent some time over the weekend and, of course, early this morning doing some research on what's going on out there. And I continue to have a major concern about the banking industry, both here in the U.S. and abroad. And of course, one of the biggest concerns that I have, aside from the amount of arbitrage, the amount of leverage, the concern of going back to where we were in 2006, 7, 8, leading us into, obviously, the modern day recession, which everyone wants to keep saying is recovering, but it just isn't doing it. The $5 billion, $20 billion numbers get thrown around when it comes to JP Morgan Chase. And those are huge settlement numbers. And of course, the shareholders are going to be impacted greatly. This morning I saw that the Department of Justice, the U.S. government, is about to go after Bank of America because of the debacle and the manipulation of mortgages through Countrywide. The number in the neighborhood of $846 million. Close enough. Billion. We're talking another $1 trillion when you impact what happened in the economy, the amount of leverage, the change of value. These are big numbers. And so when you talk about $1 billion loss, 846 million, that is the number, it's you and I, the taxpayers, that are on the hook for the money. And so even though the government is going to receive it and take it from an institution, it's likely to come all the way full circle. And if Bank of America is one of the top 5, needs to be bailed out, guess what, folks? You and I are on the hook again. Now, last week, I didn't talk about it very much, but over the week, $1 billion in art was going to be auctioned off in New York. And watching the synopsis of the auctions, there were pieces, one after the other. During the piece that I saw, $60 to $80 million pieces of art. That has nothing to bear to the discovery in Germany of 1,500 paintings worth in excess of €1 billion. And folks, if you want to talk about €1 billion, basically you're talking about $2 billion more dollars. The interesting fact is that the product, that merchandise, is going to get gobbled up. Thousands of pieces of art, not just the 1,500 in Germany, and there were Picassos and Matisse and some very, very valuable rarities out there. The market is not just full of the product, but there's plenty of people that have the wealth to secure it. And trust me, when they secure it, it's not for the short-term flip, because so many people are convinced that we're going to dip right back into the problems that we're dealing with. Now, when I talk about the problems, and I deal with the fact that Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch are dealing with the debt of countries around the world. A couple of years ago, when downgrades occurred here with the U.S. government currency, the auction values, there were death threats around the world. And so nothing's really changed. You know, we don't hear about the threats the way we did. And of course, maybe everyone's got a little bit more trepidation about how they move around and do things. But ultimately, it's the collectibles market that people are running to. And whether it's fine art, there's a diamond, it's about, I'm going to cheat, 59.6 carats, pink diamond, appraised and expected to bring in excess of $60 million. Now, we talk about these numbers, and, you know, for you and I, the average guy on the street trying to figure out how to get a tank of gas, feed his family, you know, Christmas is coming and what are you going to do about that? People throw around 60, 100, 200 million, a billion like they're nothing. And that's what I keep reiterating about the top 1% here in the United States. So here we talk about an art market where tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art are going off. I look at the stock market, and yes, I saw that Priceline is over $1,100 a share. And the Dow Jones is now closing in on 15,800. It's only up about 17 points today. But the Nikkei overseas was up over 1%. So you would have expected potentially the fact that the U.S. Dow Jones might have moved in excess of 160 points. It's a fraction of what some analysts expect. But what I'm really concerned about now is that we've got Lindsey Graham, who is contemplating whether or not he's going to step in the way of Janet Yellen's nomination to replace Ben Bernanke. I heard several traders talk about it this morning, and the biggest concern about this interruption and what may be a Fed chairman is that in Yellen's case, I heard traders talk about her putting the foot on the gas and increasing quantitative easing. Now, more central banks may get into a position where they have to sell off or they want to sell off some of their precious metals because the gains over the last few years have been used up. And the market doesn't seem to be overly impressed that you need to own them. But I'm telling you that when you get right down to it, if you're not prepared to pay $1 million or $500,000 or $10 million or $50 million on a valuable collectible, then you'll understand that right now the U.S. coin market and precious metals are cheap. And by cheap, I'm talking about owning a coin. I saw one today that I remember when the coin was under $5,000 in 1866 San Francisco, $20 gold piece. That's type 2, AU58. You could have bought it for under $4,000 or $5,000. I just saw one that was acquired over the weekend. The dealer's putting it out on the floor. And the asking price is just under $18,000. No, you might have made more in your bullion over that time period. But you know what? If you made 400% on your money, I sincerely doubt that you're going to show up in Humboldt, Texas throwing rocks at me. Now, I will tell you that there's a lot going on in my life and in the world. Misconception and confusion. I'm dealing with it. I understand the ups and the downs and the miscues and the misrepresentations. And folks, I got to tell you, I've got a lot of people who come into the store, look for advice. They want to be assisted. And so whether it's myself or Kelly, we're more than happy to be able to approach an item, whether it's a piece of jewelry, a rare coin, or anything else, and we can give you the straight information about it, and we can help tell you why we think what we think and where our heads are around it. And if you've got questions, you can chat with me live on themeltdown.com. You register at Ustream as somebody who wants to be able to get involved with the Meltdown, and you can chat with me, ask questions. But you can call the store anytime. That's 281-548-2646. 281-548-2646, or if you're outside of the Houston market, 877-705-2646. Hit option 0, and that way you will avoid the phone system and be able to provide, get a live voice so we can interact with you. Now, that's one way of doing it. The store is normally open Monday through Thursday from 10 to 5. Fridays we close a little bit early, although we're going to try to extend those as we get a little bit closer into the holiday season. But folks, this isn't going to be the roaring holiday. Let's face it. So many people load up on so much debt using their credit cards to get through Christmas that it creates a serious problem. And the serious problem is that people use their credit cards. And when you start using your credit card, you're defeating the purpose of being whole. And so how many people show up with cash? I worry about the slowdown in the world economy. I know John Kerry walked away from Iran and the negotiations over nuclear capability. The IMF is starting to downgrade and back off the growth numbers, the expectation, I guess is the term. And in Russia, where the prediction of 3.5% growth this year has now been backed off by the IMF to 1.5%, folks, that's a problem. And so a 50, 60, 70% downgrade of an anticipated number is similar to what Ben Bernanke was trying to defend a year or so ago. And here we are. We're getting our teeth knocked out. So this is the time where you look for areas of a market, and whether it's my market, the stock market, that doesn't matter. It's all about diversifying and owning multiple types of material and multiple qualities. And so I like some inexpensive gold. I think gold is a great buy in the 1280s. Now, granted, if you're not buying in the futures market, you're going to pay approximately $85 an ounce for a 1 ounce gold American Eagle over spot. That's a little over 5%. If you're buying silver American Eagles, the amount of silver that is being consumed by Americans in the rest of the world is increasing at a huge pace. So much so that other nations of the world, I'll pick on the Canadians for just a moment, they're limiting the mintages in order to force the coins to be higher value. Mints have the ability to force rarity. And if you understand that this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, I don't want to ever look at it that way, it's important to realize that limited production forces more collectors to buy into a market. And this is a buyer's beware market, kind of like when you go shopping and you need to get gasoline. I can tell you that in a 10-mile span, I saw regular unleaded gasoline here in the Humble-Kingwood area from a high of $2.96 for regular unleaded to a low of $2.79. The only question was how you were going to pay. And if you're going to pay in cash, congratulations, you have an opportunity to buy inexpensive gas. I filled up my SUV, $2.79. I was very happy with that. Didn't have to drive out of my way. It was on my way to work. Took a little detour. Probably wasn't off the main road a half a mile. Folks, it's that kind of theory that you've got to start being more frugal with. Now, not everybody's into being frugal, and I understand that too. So many of you, and I had a great conversation with one of my brother's friends on Saturday night. One is a true believer in Austrian economics and had the mindset of owning just 1 ounce gold bullion coins. Adam, it was a pleasure to meet you. Brett, I enjoyed meeting you as well, sir. It's the concern over the recognition of what you're acquiring and not paying a premium that you're not uncomfortable with. Now, I've also talked to Lisa, and Lisa, I certainly look forward to the opportunity to be able to see you, talk to you, and be able to communicate what you've got in the form of the material that you own it in. And ultimately, folks, these are the times that you want to be face-to-face with people so that you can share information. So many times people don't get all of the facts. And whether you're talking about rare coins or precious metals or diamonds or anything else of value, that's not what matters. What matters is being able to look and see the forecasts. Look at where the jobs report came out on Friday. And the anticipated 120,000 jobs was higher to 180,000. And of course, there's interruptions of the furlough and all the other statistics. And you know what? Give me 3 or 4 months of consistent numbers again so I can get my hands around it. But 1 million people in the last 6 to 8 weeks got out of the unemployment line. They lost their benefits. Those are run out. And they're out of the job market. And those numbers don't get included. And so when I hear unemployment figures come out, I want the real number. I understand and believe that we're at 25% unemployment in this country, and of 315 or 20 million people, put 80 million of them out of work. That's serious. Compound the economic flaw of our policy and realize that you add $1 trillion to the failure of economics, and $1 trillion because of quantitative easing. And if we don't start tapering, heck, I hear guys saying we're going to taper in December or January for sure. Then I hear other traders say, wait a minute, this freaking replacement of Ben Bernanke might put her foot on the gas. And if Yellen decides she wants more QE, we're going to go deeper in the hole. It's inflationary. Nobody can argue it. No one does it. But the rich get richer because that's what QE does. It gives more money to the wealthy. And unfortunately, the middle class, which is being squeezed out, becomes the lower class, or they jump into the upper class. But the lower class is losing ground. So now, I read a report earlier today. It was on about Harvard University. They cut their expenses raised revenue by 5%. Good news. However, they lost to expenses which increased by 6%. So that's another 1 point loss. And you know what? When you talk about a shortfall, the deficit at Harvard skyrockets to $34 million. There's more cities on the chopping block because they've raided the unfunded pension plans. And so now you've got the concern of more bankruptcies. And folks, I understand things are tough out there, but the tougher they get, the stronger you've got to be. That's why you buy rare coins. And you buy them because people are buying $60 million diamonds or $80 million pieces of art. How liquid is that? Well, if you're at Christie's or Sotheby's or any of the major auction houses, you're doing fine. You're okay. You got a built-in marketing company. In spite of the fact that some of that product might be shipped over to Singapore to store it, where there's this great facility. But how fast can you get to Singapore to get your valuables? And Super Typhoon, whatever the heck they call that thing, was probably the strongest storm in the history of mankind. And you're going to argue about global warming? Really? 4 million people may have been impacted, 10,000 deaths, people who were sucked up by the typhoon from the winds or the rising water, or being found in trees, or were washed out into the ocean, and people are holding their noses from the stench of death. We've got it pretty good here. And it doesn't matter where your income bracket falls, whether you've got $50 to $100 to spend, or whether you've got $50 million to $100 million to spend, whether you're moving 50 to 100,000 around. A third, and a third is designed to work inside as well as outside of an IRA, a pension plan. I look at the stock market, and I've made as much in the stock market as anybody else. And I've told one of these young men that I was talking to Saturday night that I own 12% of my retirement is right now in GLD and SLV. And no, I do not like them as a large growth position, but I see them as discounted. My biggest concern is that if you are just buying the cheapest metal you can buy, and you're storing it by the bag, by the coin, regardless of where you're doing it, bullion is confiscatable. I know most of you are going to draw a line in the sand and, you're going to have to kill me to get it. Well, okay. David Koresh is dead. That didn't work out so well for him. So for me to own multiple types of coins and multiple qualities and not have to pay stupid premiums is a good thing in a third of your portfolio. And you say, Brett, maybe I want 50% of it. That's okay. You tell me how you want it, how you're comfortable at night, because my head's not on a chopping block at that point. I'm fulfilling your transaction. If you make money, that's great. If you lose it, I'm sorry. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to tell you why I do it this way. Because I don't know what Big Brother's going to do, whether it's here in the U.S. or somewhere overseas. And I don't want to hear about all these countries over in Europe have been storing gold and silver, and you don't know what they've been doing. All you know is what they tell you. It's kind of like the labor numbers that came out from the Department of Labor. What are they going to do? Lie? Maybe. But they want it to sound better than it is, and they want to force the market higher. They know quantitative easing is coming, and they know Janet Yellen wants to put her foot on the gas and crank it up even hotter. That's why you get into rare coins and precious metals. And that's why you take positions in things that other people want. And whether it's a coin that trades for $1,000 or $100 or $100,000 or $1 million or more, the market is there. And when coins are graded by either NGC or PCGS, they trade on a computer network called CCE. And if you're going to put a sizable enough amount of money in there and you want to play the market, we'll help you do that. I'm more than happy to play. I love rare coins. I love silver dollars. I love all kinds of coins, whether it's early copper, whether it's colonial material, Civil War material. I don't have that much of a preference as long as the material is graded by NGC and PCGS. I want those coins because they trade on the computer network. You always maintain some form of liquidity. Depending on the value of the coins will determine whether or not you're going to put together something that's auction quality. Because let me tell you something. If you look and see what people are paying for a piece of canvas with a bunch of color on it, how much intrinsic value do you have there? It doesn't trade on a computer network. Yes, there's plenty of buyers for Matisse or Picasso or any of the art masters, Rembrandt, just pick one. Heck, I don't mind Peter Max. I don't mind modern artists. But the reality of what you see and what you get and how you go about marketing it is really important. Now, I've been in the industry, on and off, probably 30 years. I started as a registered investment advisor. I don't hold any of those licenses anymore because I don't want to have to answer to Uncle Sam. I really don't. Ultimately, what I do want to answer for is telling somebody, you've got a pie and it's this big around. And out of that big pie, you're going to take a percentage of the pie and you're going to move it into precious metals. And of that portion that you're going to move into precious metals, I want to take advantage of diversifying it even further. Ultimately, I can't tell you. I don't know what's going to go up and what's going to go down. I'm always looking to calculate it and figure it out. But ultimately, my biggest concern comes when I've got not just to figure it out, but I want to represent it back out in the marketplace. Those are the concerns that I share. So when I'm talking about where's the market going to go, who's going to market your product, are there other companies that are marketing it? I love Spouse Gold. I love Gold American Eagles. I am not real strong on certain types of silver, but you know what? If you get the right recommendation and you know somebody's going to promote something, I'm into it. I remember it was probably in 1991 or 92, I had a client who went through a series of transactions, and one day the comptroller of the company came down and said, Brett, I got a wire in from so-and-so for $25,000. What do you want me to do with the money? I don't have an order. And I picked up the phone and called Carl and said, Carl, what do you want me to do with the 25 grand? He said, well, Brett, you're hitting it about 15 to 20% on the money that I invest, so you put it in whatever you want. Now, I tell people, get your hands on a red book. Look at the coins. Decide based on the history and the information that you're reading and the price levels what you want to own. It's pretty simple stuff. Don't want to complicate it. Based on what you like, that'll help determine what I'm going to try to recommend you get involved in. And yes, I like some European gold. I like it nice and inexpensive. There's no doubt about that. And it's from that standpoint that I want to be able to tell you, hey, folks, there's other types of coins you want to own, and you want some silver dollars, and maybe you want Carson City or Philadelphia. You want West Point. That's new coins. Maybe you want to get into Carson City silver. Maybe you want to get into Carson City gold. And ultimately, it's not about trying to load your wagon until your axles break. It is clear, concise, and logical information that predicts what you should own based on what you want to accomplish down the road. It's a real simple formula. And it's from that standpoint that I can tell you it doesn't matter whether you're looking at insurance companies or banks, doesn't matter what, quote, anyone's specific agenda is, as much as what matters is making sure you own something that somebody else wants. Now, I can tell you this. There's a lot of times where you go into a different type of product. Heck, I know spouses that leave their families and go run off and try something else, and then their lives are ruined for it. It's never a good situation. And following someone's recommendation without all the facts is not very smart. Matter of fact, it's pretty dumb. And ultimately, I'm telling you this because I know companies that promote different types of coins based on the availability of the product. And once the product is gone and they can't get their hands on it, they move the recommendation. Well, if you're not aware of it, you could miss the opportunity to make 30, 40, 50 percentage points. So a third, and a third really does a couple of different things. First, it gets you into the commodity you like at the cheapest price. I can help you do that. And then when you get into the second area, and I've got a customer right now who is contemplating the acquisition of silver. And he's told me point blank, all he wants are the cheapest silver American Eagles he can get his hands on. And he wants to buy them in large quantities, not so worried about set building. Doesn't want any of the proofs because he doesn't want to have to pay $65 an ounce, in spite of the fact that that's what they cost dealers. I can put you in the product as a dealer, and that's not a good enough deal. So what I'm going to tell you is depending on the form of silver, you're going to pay a 10 to a 25% premium to acquire, quote, the cheapest silver, shy of getting into a 5,000 ounce contract, which is paper and doesn't contain any value. You got to be careful here. The final third, that's the rare coin. That's the one that you may have to pay $900 or $9,000 or $90,000. But that's what it went for at auction. And so technically, you may be paying a few percentage points, up to 5%, 10% for somebody to represent you. But if they represent you fairly and honestly, you might even be saving a 25% premium to retail. And you're still in the material right. But I can't tell you until you talk to me whether or not that's the right place to be based on what you're trying to accomplish. Now, I can also tell you that people misrepresent their net worth or what their goals and objectives are. And it's really important, even if you don't do business with me and you want to share questions, comments, concerns, information, you want the bid spread and the ask spread, email me. Talk to me whenever it's comfortable or you think of it. Text me. Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net, T-H-E, Gold Exchange, E-X-C-H-A-N-G-E.net. You can visit themeltdown.com anytime. And if you register with Ustream, you can chat live. But folks, this is the stuff that I talk about. And I look at AIG, I look at Priceline, I look at the big companies. I realize that there's going to be an $800 million fine assessed against Bank of America. I didn't look up B of A, and I didn't look up Wells Fargo today. I really don't care because I don't own either of the bank stocks. I know that Warren Buffett is a huge provider of capital to those companies, to the banks. And ultimately, he loves the banking system. He hates gold. Gold doesn't pay a dividend to him. And when you're talking about operating at the level that he does and Bill Gates do and Mark Zuckerberg and all these modern time millionaire and billionaires, it's a different outlook than what they've ever had. And that's why I say to you, you look at the rare coin market because it offers you multiple types of plays. You can take advantage of the precious metals play. You can take advantage of the collectors. You can take advantage of a trend line. And here at $1,280, we're down 0.5% for the day. I can tell you that silver's down 0.75 of a point. Palladium is down 0.5%. I can tell you that the world currencies are all in flux. The dollar was down. Everything else is down with the exception of the euro and the Swiss franc. And what does that mean in the big picture to the average guy on the street? Not a darn thing. Not a darn thing. I want you to be able to get your hands on gold and silver, whether it's from a standpoint of being able to barter with it, whether you're looking to secure and protect yourself against the dollar and other foreign currencies, whether or not you're looking at what other companies are promoting. There's a reason why you do this. And it's not gloom and doom, it's just pure reality. Pure reality dictates that the problems that are coming in such a fashion that you should be prepared in the event that the Dow Jones corrects for a few thousand points. Or how about if the real estate market corrects for 30 to 50 percentage points? It's liable to happen again. And what about gold in the future? Here's a commodity that costs almost $1,100 to pull out of the ground and refine, and it's trading right on top of the price that it costs to get it out of the ground. The price of crude oil slowly starting to tick back up, $95 a barrel. The XAU is flat. The premium on gold and silver still 60 to 1. For a brief moment, the premium of platinum to gold was 11% discount. Now it's back to 10. These are markets that are very volatile. And for you and I that were messing around with $100,000 or $1,000, it's not enough of an impact to change your life. Don't step over dollars to make sense, because if you wake up and all of a sudden one day the premium jumps by 11 to 15%, you're going to hit yourself in the head. It is the time that you want to reach out and you want to own things that other people want, because that's how you make money over the long haul. And it's not confusing. Now, there are a lot of different types of coins that I like. And I like the different coins that I like because there's plenty of other people that are looking for them that want to own them. If I had a client who said, Brett, I love what you had to say about Type 220s, and I want to build a set of Philadelphia and a set of San Francisco $20 gold pieces, I would applaud your decision. Unfortunately, I couldn't take all your money. Without going into the client base, there's not a chance of me being able to put together a complete set. And the availability of some of these coins becomes rather difficult. No, you can step into St. Gaudens or Common Date Liberties, and you can buy truckloads of them. But the day's coming where you won't be able to do that. And that'll be the point in time where you see the premium jump by 10 or 20%, maybe more. I've seen it move 11% in a day. And that's without a metals move. That's just demand for the physical product. Now, knowing that happens, I want to get people positioned before it does. And in speaking with these two young guys on Saturday, talking to my clients over the last several years, goes back 17 that I've been on my own now, I want to look through and find the nuances and make sure that you're properly aligned in the areas of the market that make the most sense. And so when you get right down to it, it's about being right more than you're wrong. And 2/3 of your portfolio, positioned as a third, and a third, allows the metals to be weak or strong, but it gets added protection when you get to the rare coins and to the semi-rare. Numismatics only means the collecting of coins, as philatelics means for postage stamps. This is not really confusing, although you get to 9,000 different coins in 20 different qualities. The market's 180,000 different coins and grades across, and then billions of coins deep. So odds are we're not going to run out of coins, but any pressure on supply will force the rarity, will force the premium to go up. And I've seen flat markets still gain because there's more buyers than sellers, as opposed to more sellers than buyers. And so when I tell you that I see the Dow up, all that means is that there are more buyers of the 30 shares that make up the average than sellers. That's why it's up. And you can computer trade all of this stuff. You barely have to move the money, but you'd have to have it available where somebody can see it. So the difference is that when you're in the physical, tangible coin market, you're getting delivery of product that you can put in a safe and fall back on. It's not that confusing. It really isn't. And I want you to own material that other clients are going to want. Now, I had a gentleman, he's an independent business owner, might be the president of the company, who called me 6 weeks late because I had someone walk off with a lot of Texas commemorative half dollars. And so if you're in the process of acquiring and someone's offering you a very large hoard, you probably should call me and you should probably take a step back. But this client's putting together 25 sets of Texas half dollars. There are only a couple of thousand can even be built. That represents over 1% of all the possibilities. Folks, that's a major percentage of a market. 1% of anything is not bad. Get to 10 and you've got to file SEC required documentation in the stock market. This is a private market and it works very different. The easiest thing I can tell you is, depending on what you've got to work with, you can absolutely move the market, take advantage of opportunities that you normally don't find in other areas of the asset world, and that's why I tell people to get involved. Now, I also know that people take valuables, coins, currency, and they seal it in an airtight or a vacuum bag, and they put them in a survival tube and they bury them. And there's so much material buried all over this country, folks, it'll never all get found. That's kind of sad in and of itself. But understand this is the time to draw a line in the sand, make some decisions, and let's talk about the direction you want your portfolio to go. So many people I talk to just don't want to lose any more money. Whether they make it isn't the point. Anyway. I never want to get off air without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. Now, my son Jason has very mild Downs, and when he was 6 weeks old, my wife at the time took Jason to the pediatrician. PD said, get down to TCH. Brandy called me. I ran home. We got Jason. We drove to the hospital. They were waiting in triage for us. And they treated us like we were VIPs. And folks, I'm not. I'm just a regular person taking care of my child. And they took care of us. We were there for 6 weeks. But we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House for probably the majority of the first 3. And maybe 3.5. And 20 rooms on the 4th floor so that you can get some rest and go back down and check on your children in the middle of the night. If you can provide a hot meal for between, say, 30 and 60 people, please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Nancy Allen and her staff would be more than happy to accommodate you. Now, the Downs Clinic obviously has a very special place in my heart. Catherine Ostermeyer is the head of the facility. She's moved off of the Fannin campus of Texas Children's and has a facility that's just growing by leaps and bounds. And if you're looking for a facility to be able to tithe or provide an offering to, particularly as we get into the holiday season, please go to themeltdown.com, click on the donation link. Your information is totally protected and anonymous. So your name, address, phone number, the amount of money you provide, all of that is kept away from us. It's the information that goes to Texas Children's Hospital. And folks, I love the doctors, the nurses, the staff, and the volunteers at Texas Children's throughout the medical center as well as the world. Thank you all for taking care of our kids. I love you guys a lot. And there's nothing I won't do to help the children around the world. Please keep praying for the people in the Philippines. 4 million people have been impacted by that storm. Lots of death. And if you're looking and you've got the ability after the Ronald McDonald House and the Downs Clinic, please consider donating something over to the Philippines. Now, I appreciate you listening in. If you've got any questions, email me. That's Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. Call the store 281 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646. Hit option 0. I'd be more than happy to help you. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to be here and do an early show. This morning I had an appearance I had to take care of, but I'm going to try to be on tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll have it uploaded before 10. If you've got any questions, reach out for me in the interim. Enjoy the pretty day. God bless you. I appreciate you listening in. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks again. Have a great day.